Some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We begin today with a look at immigration enforcement under the Obama administration. Earlier this month, Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano announced the expansion of the controversial 287G program to 11 new locations across the country. This program allows local law enforcement agencies to enter into agreements with Homeland Security's Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. It effectively gives local police the powers of federal immigration agents. 287G agreements have been widely criticized for increasing racial profiling and singling out immigrants for arrest without suspicion of crime. In Napolitano's home state of Arizona, particularly under Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio, the 287G program's plagued with serious reports of abuse. The Obama administration's also decided to expand and strengthen implementation of other controversial programs like E-Verify and Secure Communities. E-Verify is an electronic system that checks people's eligibility to work, and Secure Communities brings ICE agents into local jails to identify and deport undocumented prisoners. Well, here in New York, a coalition of immigration activists are gathering outside the Council on Foreign Relations today at the time of this broadcast, where Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano is giving a speech about terrorism. The activists are protesting Napolitano's expansion of immigration enforcement programs and calling for an end to abuses by ICE. For more on this, we're joined by two guests in the Firehouse studio. Arti Shahani is the lead author of Local Democracy on ICE, a report on the 287G program by the nonpartisan Criminal Justice Institute Justice Strategies. She's also co-founder of Families for Freedom. Roberto Lovato is contributing associate editor with New America Media and a frequent contributor to The Nation and the Huffington Post. He was previously the executive director of the Central American Resource Center, CARECEN, then the country's largest immigrant rights organization. He blogs at ofamerica.wordpress.com. We welcome you both to Democracy Now!
Thank you.
Okay, let's begin with you, Arti Shahani. 287G, can you explain more fully what it means?
Absolutely. The 287G program is essentially the program that turns traffic cops and jail guards into deportation agents. 287G refers to a piece of law passed in 1996 under then-President Bill Clinton, but turned into an all-out program to recruit law enforcement into the deportation agenda under the Bush administration. Our understanding, those of us who were watching Obama and had hopes in Obama, was that under Obama, programs like 287G would be terminated because they are driven off of a desire for racial profiling. Officers that want to be able to have the power to pick up Latinos, brown people while driving, these are the self-selecting group of people that join into 287G. And unfortunately, 2 weeks ago, Napolitano gave us our first really blatant betrayal when she decided not only not to suspend 287G, but to expand it around the country. Notably, she gave this program, she reinitiated the contract with Joe Arpaio in Maricopa County, Arizona. Mind you, Joe Arpaio is currently under federal investigation. The Department of Justice, Eric Holder, is investigating his use of the program. Meanwhile, Napolitano is going ahead and handing it off to him. Among the other participants that were recruited newly into the program, Arpaio is an old participant in it. A new recruit is, for example, Morristown, New Jersey, where the chief of police himself had no idea his own agency was being recruited into 287G. Last night, Morristown had a community meeting of 150 community members where people, for example, a woman said, listen, imagine if you're a victim of domestic violence. If we have this program in Morristown, New Jersey, how can you call the police? Because the police will come, they will deport your husband, even if you don't want that, and they could even deport you. This was a fear. There was another anecdote last night about a guy in Morristown, actually a white guy who loves bachata music. He was saying that I was driving in my convertible the other day, top down, listening to my bachata. The police stopped me. They don't even have 287G yet. The police stopped me and said in Spanish, give me your driver's license. And they spoke worse Spanish than me, and I responded in Spanish as a white guy. I don't even, I gave them the driver's license, responded in Spanish, and it was so clear that they assumed that I was Latino because I don't have blue eyes, because I'm Italian-American. And so you can see that the places where this program is really coming up are places that want to do racial profiling. And Napolitano's decision to go ahead and expand the program, I think, needs to be taken as by those who are watching as a real misstep. There is right now, for example, even within the Democratic Party, people were pissed at her in large part because Democrats that have been campaigning for comprehensive immigration reform want to be able to trade off enforcement for legalization. And so within the Democratic Party, there was some criticism that strategically Napolitano was just handing off enforcement through things like 287G and E-Verify, rather than letting them being able to trade it off for legalization down the line. So there's, on a lot of fronts, she's disappointed a lot of people.
How does it work in Maricopa in Arizona?
So, I mean, how it works is a great question, and it really seems to work different ways in different places. The fundamental thing about 287G is ICE is marketing it as a program that targets criminal, illegal aliens, the worst of the worst. But there's a baseline fact, which is that police already have the power to arrest people for crimes. That power rests in criminal law. And so 287G comes in precisely when you lack reasonable suspicion of a crime, when you lack evidence, and when you're trying to hold someone on a civil immigration detainer, because under a civil immigration detainer, you don't have the same constitutional protections as a regular criminal arrest. So 287G basically opens the gateway for sloppy policing. That's why law enforcement officers like Joe Arpaio, Joe Arpaio has told me, 287G takes the handcuffs off of law enforcement. That's why we want it there. The way that it's worked in Maricopa County is through these quote-unquote crime suppression sweeps, where really what you have is the sheriff's deputies and then a volunteer force that includes people that are white nationalists going around the city or going around the county, going into different areas in Mesa and rounding people up. That's how it's been working over there.
This is what, well, at the time, Governor Napolitano presided over it. Is it fair to say that, presided over?
Napolitano actually brokered the first 287G program in Arizona and then helped Arpaio to get his. Now, one way that she's really speaking out of both sides of her mouth over here is that she is saying that my administration, Homeland Security under me is going to clean up the detention system. We've had upwards of 100 deaths in civil immigration detention. It's a totally mismanaged system that's grown from 5,000 in 1994 to over 40,000 today. And she has actually brought in a corrections guru, Dora Striro, who knows all about managing corrections, to come and clean up the system. So she's saying, we're going to get basic standards in detention, we're going to manage it properly. So that's one side of her mouth. And the other side of her mouth is expanding this program, which is basically a backdoor way to add anywhere between 2,000 and 10,000 new beds in detention without calling it that. The fact is, Joe Arpaio isn't just running a program that picks Latinos off of the streets for being Latino. He's then throwing these same people into Tent City, a jail that's not even accredited anymore federally because its standards are so poor, and holding them there de facto as immigration civil detainees. So it makes no sense that on the one hand, Napolitano says we're going to clean up detention, and on the other hand, through 287G, she continues to rely on Joe's beds.
We're going to go to break and come back to this discussion. Artie Shahani is the lead author in Local Democracy on ICE, a report on the 287G program by the Nonpartisan Criminal Justice Institute. And we'll be joined by Roberto Lovato. As we speak, a protest is going on outside the Council on Foreign Relations, where Janet Napolitano is speaking about terrorism. Stay with us.